The chaotic hum of LAX Terminal 4 pressed down on Eleanor Thompson, a physical weight matching the carry-on digging into her shoulder. At 72, every step felt like a battle against the polished, unforgiving floor. Her cane tapped a rhythm of quiet desperation, each click echoing the dwindling minutes until their connecting flight. George, 75, a retired engineer whose precision now seemed useless against the airport's sprawling labyrinth, juggled a bulging briefcase and his tweed jacket, his face etched with a familiar, weary frustration. They watched younger travelers, all sleek backpacks and confident strides, glide past them, an unspoken question hanging in the stale, recycled air. Is this just how it is for us now? Many travelers, especially those who've seen a few more decades, assume the grind is part of the journey. They believe they have to endure the endless corridors, the confusing gate changes, the heavy bags, and the crushing exhaustion alone.
But what if I told you there's a secret weapon? A quiet advocate waiting to transform your airport experience. It's not some exclusive VIP perk. It's a fundamental right. An unlisted service designed to make travel dignified, not debilitating. Eleanor shifted her weight, a sharp pain shooting up her back. George, do you have any idea which way is gate 142? This sign says Concourse D, but then it points back the way we came. Her voice, usually warm and steady, now held a tremor of defeat. George peered at his worn boarding pass, then up at the bright, overwhelming digital displays, flickering with a dizzying array of numbers and destinations. His glasses slid down his nose. It's somewhere down this hall. Then a shuttle, I think. This airport feels like it was designed by a committee determined to confuse. He adjusted his grip on the briefcase, knuckles white.
The temperature inside the terminal hovered around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, but the exertion made them both feel much warmer, their faces a little flushed. Have you ever found yourself in Eleanor and George's shoes, lost, tired, and wondering if anyone else notices your challenges amidst the relentless churn? It's a common pitfall. The airport system, for all its technological marvels, often relies on a passive interaction, expecting you to navigate its complexities without complaint. Yet within this same system lies what I call the Gateway Guardian Aid, an invaluable, often overlooked service. It's not an actual code you need to remember or a secret handshake. It's the simple act of asking. This isn't charity. It's a service you're entitled to, particularly if you're a senior traveler facing a tight connection or mobility challenges. A young woman with an infant strapped to her chest effortlessly flagged down a passing golf cart from the airline. Eleanor watched, a flicker of envy quickly followed by resignation cross her features. Well, that's different, George. She has a baby. Yes, well, we're just us, George replied, trying to sound jovial, but the fatigue in his voice was palpable. Their connecting flight was due to depart in just under an hour, meaning boarding would begin in less than 30 minutes. Their gate was listed as being over 3/4 of a mile away, a distance that felt like a marathon. The idea of hauling 2 carry-ons, a briefcase, and navigating through what looked like an endless stream of humanity made his stomach churn. This is where many travelers make a critical mistake. They suffer in silence. They accept discomfort as an inevitable part of the journey. But knowledge, my friends, is power. What if George knew the precise phrase, the exact golden script that could unlock assistance? Imagine avoiding that painful trek, arriving at your gate refreshed and on time, all because you asked the right question.
They finally spotted an airline customer service desk, marked with the carrier's blue and white logo. Behind the counter sat Miss Jenkins, an agent whose expression was as neutral as the gray carpet underfoot. She looked up as George and Eleanor approached, her gaze sweeping over them, not unkindly, but without particular interest. "Excuse me, ma'am," George began, his voice a little hoarse from the dry air. "We're trying to get to Gate 142 for our flight to Omaha, connecting from our flight from San Francisco. It's boarding in about 25 minutes, and we seem to be quite a ways from here." Ms. Jenkins tapped a few keys on her keyboard. "Gate 142. Yes, sir, that's down Concourse C. Then take the shuttle to Satellite Terminal D, and then it's another left. Should be about a 15 to 20-minute walk, depending on your pace." She offered a small, practiced smile, already turning her attention to the next passenger in line. George's shoulders sagged. 20 minutes? They barely had that to spare, let alone the time to walk it. Eleanor gripped her cane tighter, her knuckles white. This was it. They were going to miss their flight. The thought of dealing with rebooking, finding a hotel for the night, and another day of travel felt utterly overwhelming. This wasn't how their much-anticipated visit with their grandkids was supposed to start. But then, a quiet reminder, perhaps the accumulated wisdom of their journey, spoke to George. Politeness paired with specific knowledge can change everything. George took a deep breath. "Excuse me, Ms. Jenkins," he said, a little louder, catching her attention again. "I apologize for bothering you, but my wife Eleanor is having some difficulty walking that distance, and with our tight connection, we're worried we won't make it. Do you offer any special assistance for senior passengers navigating a tight connection? Perhaps what you might call senior assistance or gateway guardian aid to help us reach our gate on time?" The phrase, delivered with genuine politeness, worked like a key in a stubborn lock. Miss Jenkins' neutral expression softened, a professional consideration replacing her detached efficiency. She paused, truly seeing Eleanor's weary face, George's strained posture, and their heavy bags. "Oh, certainly, sir," she said, her tone noticeably warmer. "You should have asked right away. For senior passengers with mobility concerns or tight connections, we absolutely offer complimentary assistance. Let me just make a quick call." She picked up her phone, spoke briefly into it, and within 3 minutes, a small electric cart, no different from the one the young mother had used, glided silently to a halt beside them. The driver, a kind-faced man in an airline vest, smiled warmly. "Thompson party? Gate 142? Eleanor and George looked at each other, relief washing over their faces like a cool wave. George managed a small, grateful nod. "Yes, that's us. Thank you." The driver deftly loaded their bags onto the back of the cart. Eleanor carefully settled into the passenger seat, letting out a small sigh of comfort as her weight left her aching feet. George sat beside her, feeling an immense burden lift from his shoulders. As they zipped past the throngs of hurried travelers, navigating the vast expanse of Terminal 4 with effortless grace, they realized just how close they had come to giving up. They watched the digital signs fly by, the distant gate numbers shrinking, and the hum of jet engines becoming a comforting backdrop, rather than a menacing growl. You don't have to battle the terminal. You don't have to accept exhaustion and stress as part of the deal. The system, often perceived as an adversary, also contains built-in solutions for a smoother journey. A polite, informed question can unlock a world of difference. Next time, remember, A little preparation and the courage to ask for what you're entitled to can transform a daunting obstacle into a seamless glide. Let the system work for you. Denver International was a sprawling beast, a labyrinth of gates and concourses that had long since lost its charm for David Miller. At 68, the freelance writer considered himself a seasoned traveler. Yet here he was, once again wedged into a middle seat on a packed Boeing 737, the faint scent of stale coffee clinging to the air around gate B-42. His knees practically touched the seat in front, a familiar torture for the 5-hour flight to Orlando. He'd checked in precisely 24 hours out, setting his alarm to snag a decent seat, only to find himself eyeball to armpit with strangers. It was the same story every time. He sighed, adjusting his glasses, his gaze drifting enviously to the empty aisle and window seats further up, just out of reach. But what if early wasn't always best? Many travelers, like David, operate under the ironclad belief that checking in the moment it opens, a full 24 hours before departure, is their golden ticket to a prime seat. They meticulously set reminders, fingers hovering over the check-in button, only to find themselves, more often than not, still stuck in the dreaded middle. This common misconception often leads to frustration and discomfort, transforming the start of a journey into an immediate ordeal. Top secret number 1. The seat shift strategy. This simple insight will revolutionize your seat selection. David's frustration echoed a common belief. Check in early, get the best seat. But the system works in mysterious ways. What if I told you the true sweet spot for snagging those coveted premium seats isn't at the 24-hour mark? Take Michael, a young executive who once swore by the early bird gets the worm mantra for flights. He'd check in a full day before, only to consistently end up with a less than ideal assignment. One day, a seasoned flight attendant, overhearing his grumbles, simply advised him, "Try again closer to departure, buddy. Things shift." Skeptical, Michael tried it. 3 hours before his next flight, he pulled up the Airline app and found an open aisle seat, a free upgrade from his assigned middle. It was like magic. The smart traveler's move. The real secret lies in timing. Airlines often hold back a percentage of prime seats, like exit rows, bulkheads, or even Comfort Plus equivalents, for various reasons: operational needs, last-minute sales, or reallocating seats from no-shows. These are frequently released into the general pool 3 to 5 hours before departure. This is when gate agents and automated systems finalize manifests. So, the next time you're stuck with a less than desirable seat, don't resign yourself. Politely approach the gate agent, or even better, check the airline's app in that specific window. Ask them, with a smile, "Excuse me, I was wondering if any aisle or window seats have opened up. I understand sometimes they release them a few hours before departure." This isn't a guarantee, but it vastly improves your odds. Knowledge truly makes travel better, transforming a cramped flight into a far more comfortable experience. As if on cue, a new wave of irritation rippled through David. Just a few rows ahead, a young couple, maybe in their late 20s, was loudly bickering. "But it's only 3 pounds over," the woman exclaimed, her voice echoing slightly in the sterile gate area. "They want to charge us $50 for 3 pounds?" Her partner threw his hands up in exasperation. David's stomach tightened. His own carry-on felt suspiciously heavy. He'd packed a few extra books for his Orlando writing retreat. A quick mental calculation of his usual baggage weight and the estimated weight of the books sent a fresh wave of dread through him. $50 for a few pounds? That felt like daylight robbery. Top secret number 2. The legacy luggage exemption. Baggage fees are a notorious sore spot for travelers. That moment when your perfectly packed suitcase tips the scale just a hair over the limit, and suddenly you're facing a hefty fee, feels like a direct assault on your wallet. It's a common scenario that can escalate tension right before boarding.
Consider Martha, a 72-year-old grandmother flying to visit her grandkids. She'd meticulously packed gifts, only to find her bag was 7 pounds over the 50-pound limit. The gate agent was about to charge her the overweight fee when another, more experienced agent stepped in. He calmly told Martha, "Don't worry, ma'am. For senior travelers, we often have some flexibility." He then waived the fee. Martha was surprised but relieved. She'd never heard of such a policy. The smart traveler's move. While not widely advertised, many airlines possess what we call a legacy luggage exemption or a senior passenger policy. This isn't a hard and fast rule written in bold on their website, but rather a discretionary allowance often extended to senior travelers, typically 65 and older, or those with specific needs. It might grant an extra 5 to 10 pounds or even a second checked bag for international flights in some instances.
This isn't about demanding. It's about polite inquiry. When you approach the check-in or gate agent, especially if your bag is only slightly over the limit, a calm and respectful question can work wonders. Simply ask, "Excuse me, I know my bag is just a few pounds over the limit. Is there a senior passenger policy regarding slightly increased baggage weight, or any flexibility for travelers of a certain age?" This respectful approach acknowledges the rules while gently prompting them to consider their internal discretionary policies. A little understanding goes a long way, potentially saving you a significant chunk of change. David listened to the gate announcements, the voice echoing in the terminal, signaling the start of boarding. He felt a spark of inspiration, a new strategy forming in his mind. He glanced at his own overstuffed carry-on one last time. Taking a deep breath, he walked up to the podium where the gate agent, Sarah Chen, was busy scanning boarding passes. She was a woman in her late 30s with kind eyes, but a no-nonsense demeanor. He waited for a lull, then offered a friendly smile. "Excuse me, Miss Chen," he began, his voice calm and polite. "I checked in this morning, about 20 hours ago, and ended up in a middle seat. I was wondering," he paused, recalling the mentor's advice, "if any aisle or window seats have opened up. I understand sometimes they release them a few hours before departure." Sarah looked up, her expression a mix of surprise and mild curiosity. Most passengers just grumbled. She typed a few commands into her keyboard, her eyes scanning the screen. A beat passed. Then a faint smile touched her lips. "Well, Mr. Miller," she said, her tone softening, "you're in luck. An aisle seat in an exit row just became available. We do indeed often release premium seats like that closer to departure if they haven't been booked. It's yours, free of charge." She printed a new boarding pass, handing it to him. David felt a surge of quiet triumph. "Thank you so much, Miss Chen," he said, genuine gratitude in his voice. He took the new pass, glancing at the coveted seat number, 12C. Then, emboldened by his success, he added, almost as an afterthought, "And just to confirm, Miss Chen, I have this carry-on." He gestured to his admittedly heavy bag. "And I was wondering, is there a senior passenger policy regarding slightly increased baggage weight? It feels like it might be just a few pounds over." Sarah paused, looking at his bag, then back at her screen. Her brow furrowed for a moment, then relaxed. "You know, Mr. Miller," she replied, a slight nod of acknowledgement. "For senior travelers, we often have some discretion for small overages, especially on carry-ons. Go right ahead, sir." A wave of relief and satisfaction washed over David. He wasn't just a passenger anymore. He was a strategist. He held his new boarding pass, the comfortable aisle seat awaiting him, and his slightly heavy bag, now worry-free. He zipped past the remaining travelers, a newfound spring in his step. The hum of jet engines sounded less menacing, more like a tune of triumph. Knowing when to check and how to ask, with politeness and a dash of informed cleverness, truly made all the difference. He thought about all those years spent grumbling, unaware that the system, often perceived as an adversary, actually held hidden solutions. He could almost hear the wise mentor's calm voice echoing, "Let the system work for you." David Miller's satisfied smile was a faint echo in the bustling concourse of Orlando International Airport, MCO, a world away from Susan Rodriguez. At 65, a cheerful, newly retired librarian, Susan clutched her boarding pass for Flight 247, the hum of the airport tram a steady rhythm beneath the excited chatter of children and the sweet scent of theme park snacks. 10-year-old Leo, her grandson, bounced beside her, his wide eyes scanning the colossal windows, already imagining Cinderella Castle. Susan loved his enthusiasm, but a private worry gnawed at her. She'd spent weeks hunting for the best deal to Disney World, convinced she'd snagged it through a popular travel site. Yet the final bill still felt like a punch to her retirement savings, and the thought of the impending general boarding scrum, a jostling tide of humanity, made her stomach tighten. "There has to be a better way," she mused, remembering a vague online article about travel hacks. "Grandma, are we going to fly next to the window?" Leo asked, pulling at her sleeve, his voice a hopeful squeak. Susan offered a reassuring smile. "We'll see, sweetie. Let's find our gate first." She scanned the gate information, Group 4, blinking ominously on her boarding pass. Group 4. That means we'll be one of the last ones on, she thought, picturing Leo trying to squeeze past fellow passengers, his small frame dwarfed by their carry-on bags. It was moments like these, caught between the excitement of a new adventure and the grind of modern air travel, that she wished for some secret wisdom. Many travelers, just like Susan, scour the internet convinced they've found the absolute lowest airfare, tirelessly comparing prices across countless comparison websites. This belief often comes with a quiet resignation that every dollar saved is a dollar earned, even if it means sacrificing comfort. But here's a truth that often remains hidden, a secret whispered among seasoned road warriors. Some of the best deals, especially for those in their golden years, are never overtly advertised on those third-party platforms. Susan herself, an expert at finding obscure titles in the library stacks, had spent countless hours scrolling through digital pages, meticulously tracking prices. She'd found what she thought was a steal, a round-trip ticket for herself and Leo from Cleveland, Ohio to Orlando for $380 apiece. A decent price, she'd reasoned, but the combined total for the trip, including park tickets and lodging, still left her budget feeling stretched thin. She'd entered her birth date, clearly a senior, yet no special discount magically appeared. It felt like a missed opportunity she couldn't quite grasp. But here's a secret that can unlock significant savings. Politely inquire about senior fares or check the airline's official website using the Senior Passenger filter. Many airlines, especially within the United States, quietly offer a 10% to 25% discount for senior travelers. These aren't typically displayed on third-party sites. To find them, you must either book directly on the airline's website and select the Senior Traveler option in the passenger-type drop-down menu, or call their customer service line and specifically ask about senior fares. It's a simple click or a quick conversation that can shave off a noticeable chunk of your travel expenses, often dozens of dollars per ticket. This insider knowledge truly makes a difference in your travel budget. As the boarding time for Flight 247 edged closer, the gate area began to swell with families, business travelers, and excited Disney-bound visitors. The air thickened with anticipation, and Leo, usually a bundle of boundless energy, started to look a little overwhelmed by the sheer number of people. He tugged at Susan's sleeve again, his small hand almost lost in the fabric.
"Grandma, there are so many people. Are we going to have to wait a long time?"
Susan knelt, her gaze meeting his.
"Not too long, sweet pea."
But inside her apprehension grew. She pictured the typical boarding scene, elbows out, frantic searches for overhead bin space, the awkward dance of shuffling bags while others tried to squeeze by. It was an unnecessarily stressful start to any trip, especially one meant for joy and relaxation with her grandson. She yearned for a calmer entrance, a way to settle in without the frenetic rush. But boarding doesn't have to be a chaotic scramble for overhead bins or a jostling scrum. There's another unspoken courtesy many airlines extend, a quiet privilege for those who know how to ask. Susan imagined trying to navigate Leo through the inevitable chaos, his backpack bumping into strangers, his small hand lost in hers. This scene, playing out in her mind, solidified her resolve to avoid it. This is where you claim your peace of mind. Politely ask the gate agent, "Is it possible for us, as senior travelers, to pre-board to settle in before the main rush?" Most airlines, when faced with a polite request from a senior passenger, particularly one traveling with a young child, will gladly grant early boarding. It allows you extra time to stow your bags, find your seats, and get comfortable without the pressure of 100 impatient eyes behind you. It's a small courtesy that makes a world of difference for a relaxed start to your journey. Armed with these newfound insights, Susan took a deep breath. She saw Mr. Harrison, the airline representative, at the podium, his name tag gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Taking Leo's hand, she approached him calmly, her librarian's voice clear and composed. "Excuse me, Mr. Harrison?" she began, a polite smile on her face. He looked up from his screen. "Yes, ma'am." "I have a quick question for future reference," Susan continued, remembering the wise mentor's advice. "I understand some airlines offer a senior discount when booking directly through their official website. Is that something your airline provides?" Mr. Harrison paused, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Few passengers ever asked about this. "Yes, ma'am, that's correct," he replied, a faint smile touching his lips. "If you select the Senior Traveler option on our site during booking, you'll typically see those fares." "Wonderful. Thank you for that," Susan said, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Then, with Leo peeking from behind her leg, she asked, "And also, Mr. Harrison, would it be possible for us, as senior travelers, to pre-board today to settle in before the rush?" She gestured slightly to Leo, who, catching her cue, offered a shy, hopeful look. Mr. Harrison looked at Leo, then back at Susan, his smile widening. "Of course, ma'am. Absolutely. Go right ahead with Group 1. We'll call for pre-boarding in just a moment." A wave of relief, warm and unexpected, washed over Susan.
She thanked him, her gratitude genuine, and then guided Leo toward the gate entrance. A moment later, the announcement crackled over the intercom. "We are now inviting pre-board passengers and those needing special assistance, including senior travelers and families with small children, to begin boarding." Susan and Leo, part of the first wave, glided down the jet bridge, the gentle slope a stark contrast to the imagined scrum. They found their aisle and window seats in row 12, stowed their bags with ease, and settled in calmly while the rest of the passengers formed a winding queue behind them. Leo, already peering out the window, looked up at her, a genuine smile replacing his earlier nervousness. Susan leaned back, a sense of quiet triumph swelling within her. It wasn't about being demanding or confrontational. It was about knowing not just what to ask, but how and when to ask it, with politeness and informed confidence. The system, once an intimidating maze, had just worked for her, providing not just comfort, but also significant savings she hadn't even known existed. The wise mentor's voice echoed in her mind. "Knowledge makes travel better, and politeness, your best passport, truly opens doors." She had claimed her deserved peace of mind, and, she realized, her dollar too. The gate area, a sterile ballet of chrome and glass, had just lulled Susan into a false sense of peace when a jarring, metallic voice sliced through the hum. "Attention! Passengers on Flight 114 to London Heathrow. We regret to announce that this flight is now delayed by approximately 4 hours due to unforeseen mechanical issues. We apologize for any inconvenience." A collective groan, thick and palpable, rippled through the assembled crowd, deflating the hopeful anticipation that had clung to the air like cheap perfume. Robert Sterling, a dapper retired architect in his early 70s, felt his own stomach clench with a familiar frustration. His meticulously planned journey from Chicago O'Hare to his granddaughter's graduation in London suddenly seemed adrift. He watched as fellow passengers slumped into their seats, some muttering angrily, others already lining up at the customer service desk, their faces etched with resignation. He knew that line would be a marathon of disappointment. A quick glance at the digital flight board, its luminous text flickering with the updated delay, confirmed the grim reality. 4 hours. That was a long time to stare at the gate, breathing recycled air. But then, a quiet resolve settled over Robert. He remembered the wise mentor's voice, echoing in his mind like a well-rehearsed symphony. "Knowledge makes travel better, and politeness, your best passport, truly opens doors." And hadn't the mentor specifically talked about a passenger protection protocol and an elevated experience initiative for situations just like this? A 3-hour delay, the mentor had emphasized, was the magic number. 4 hours was well beyond it. He surveyed the scene, taking in the muted rumble of planes taking off outside, and the faint, almost imperceptible scent of jet fuel mingling with the duty-free perfumes wafting from nearby shops. Most people were glued to their phones or exchanging exasperated glances. But Robert had a different strategy. He took a slow, deep breath, smoothing the lapels of his sport coat. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to negotiate, armed with information. His target? Patricia Vance, the terminal manager, a woman with a no-nonsense bun and a headset that seemed permanently affixed. She was deftly managing the burgeoning queue, her expressions a blend of practiced empathy and weary efficiency. Robert waited patiently for a brief lull in her interactions, observing her rhythm. He didn't want to be another complaining passenger. Finally, he approached her, a polite smile gracing his lips. "Excuse me, Miss Vance," he began, his voice calm and clear, cutting through the low murmur of the gate area. "Robert Sterling. I'm on Flight 114 to London. With this unfortunate 4-hour delay due to mechanical issues, I recall hearing that some airlines, recognizing the inconvenience, occasionally offer last-minute upgrades to senior passengers. Are there, by any chance, any seats available in business class for such situations?" Patricia Vance paused, her eyebrows arching slightly. Most requests she fielded were angry demands for vouchers or frantic pleas to be rebooked. This was different. Direct, informed, and undeniably polite. She took a moment, tapping at her tablet, her gaze briefly flickering over Robert's composed demeanor. The system, she knew, was designed to keep these options quiet, but the request was reasonable and the criteria met. "Certainly, Mr. Sterling," she replied, a hint of surprise in her tone. "It seems we have an unexpected vacancy due to a last-minute cancellation. Consider it done." She began typing, a faint click of keys the only sound in the brief silence between them. Within minutes, a new boarding pass materialized, gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "Here you go, sir. Gate A10 for your new boarding. Enjoy your flight." Robert thanked her warmly, a genuine smile replacing his earlier apprehension. He was no longer just a passenger. He was an informed passenger. As other travelers continued their trek to the customer service desk, or huddled around electrical outlets, Robert, with his new boarding pass clutched firmly, made his way towards the airline's VIP lounge. The door swished open, revealing an oasis of calm. Plush leather chairs, soft lighting, and the distant clinking of glasses. He settled into a comfortable armchair, a complimentary sparkling water materializing almost instantly at his elbow. This was significantly better than trying to find an empty, hard plastic seat at the gate. But he wasn't done. The mentor had spoken not just of comfort, but of compensation. While sipping his water, Robert pulled out his smartphone. He knew better than to wait in line. He navigated to the airline's chat support feature, typing concisely. "I am Robert Sterling, a senior traveler on Flight 114 to London Heathrow, delayed by 4 hours. As per the airline's passenger protection protocol, and recognizing the significant delay exceeding the 3-hour compensation threshold, I am requesting full compensation for this substantial disruption." He hit send. The message was clear, devoid of emotion, factual. He wasn't begging. He was stating a claim. The airline system, designed to handle such requests, processed it quickly. Less than an hour later, his phone vibrated. A notification. "Confirmation of cash refund for Flight 114 delay processed. Expected within 3 to 5 business days. Should the delay extend overnight, please contact us for hotel accommodation options." Robert leaned back, a sense of quiet triumph swelling within him. He didn't feel lucky. He felt powerful. These privileges, the mentor had explained, weren't favors. They were hidden in plain sight, deliberately obscured by airlines who profited from traveler ignorance. If every senior traveler demanded their due with politeness and knowledge, the system would be forced to operate with full transparency. Because the best privileges aren't sold, the wise mentor's voice echoed in Robert's mind. They're hidden,
waiting for someone brave enough to ask for them. And not just to ask, but to know how and when to ask, with politeness and informed confidence. What hidden benefits are you leaving on the table simply because you haven't asked? The system is designed to reward the informed traveler, and today, Robert Sterling was that traveler. He didn't fight the system. He learned its rules, outmaneuvered its hidden barriers, and claimed his rightful comfort and compensation.